Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're back. Hopefully you were able to do all of that with the manufacturing services. It follows a nice, easy order for you, nothing too crazy. We're going from manufacturing to services to payrolls. Like I said, the big change for me came in terms of understanding fundamentals when I started to realize there's an order to everything. You know, I realize manufacturing services and payrolls always happens in week one. Why am I overcomplicating myself? I realized the market really wasn't focused on many other things apart from those three items. I realized that all the time manufacturing comes first, then services, then payrolls. Do you see there's order to the madness where most people are just all over the place? We're creating some order to allow ourselves a framework, the opportunity to actually make some sense of all of this stuff. So my point is, that's the order. Manufacturing, right? So we've got that here. Services, nice, next. And next on the list is the all-important payrolls. So, you know, that's how I look at it. I've been looking at it for a long time like that. I've got it here. I'm going to help you create this from scratch, okay? I do like to split out, as you just briefly saw there, payrolls and the unemployment rate. And that's because, so what it is, if you've got data where they're quite correlated, so obviously with things like retail sales, the core and the headline number, so don't worry if that doesn't make sense right now, because eventually it will, but you can see we're going to be building this together, so don't worry. The core, and I know it's a little bit tiny, I've zoomed in, but when we build it, I'll zoom a little bit out, don't worry. Core and headline. Okay, it's the same data, but with things taken out of it. So can you see they're very correlated? They're so close together that it makes sense for me to have them on the same graph, right? Even though I'm trying to look at two pieces of data on the same tab, have them on the same graph. Same with a lot of the housing data. I'm looking at housing data. It's very similar, right? So it's got to be correlated, and it makes sense for me to have it on one graph. But with payrolls and the unemployment rate, you can see the way that they're represented. Payrolls is in thousands, right? This is in percent. It makes no sense for me to have both of these on the same kind of graph. Yeah, there is obviously some correlation between them, and from that perspective I could, but I've never found it quite useful to have them on the same graph, because obviously payrolls can be very volatile. Unemployment rate is a little bit more steady, and we'll talk about this when we actually go into more detail about the unemployment. What is it telling us? How is it formulated? All of that, it will make much more sense. For now, let's make our lives easier and just split them apart into two graphs. So again, two ways to do this. You can either start with a blank sheet, and if you want, I highly encourage you to do that, and you can build it from scratch, or try and take the shortcut method, which I'm using. So again, same thing. Click on either of these, services or manufacturing. Right, which takes manufacturing. Drag it across so it just goes there, and then it gets copied as an identical tab. Change the name to, I like to call it payrolls. You can call it whatever you want, unemployment situation, whatever you want to call it. I like to call it payrolls, right? And look, don't forget, it's in red. So I like to make this tab red. Okay, so right click, tab color, okay, red. Hopefully you'll be able to see that because I block some of this, don't I? So tab color, yeah, you can see that, yeah. Tab color and then red. Again, your colors might be different to mine, doesn't have to be exactly the same, really doesn't matter. Do what works for you in terms of making it obvious that. So do you see, when I've got my sheet now, I know payrolls is the big one, it's the really big one. Okay, when is it? Week 1, week 2, week 3, you should know this now, week 1. So I like to just put here week 1, okay, so that's week 1, and then we can go about just changing some of these things. So it's not manufacturing, is it? It's payrolls, okay. Is it released monthly on the first business day? No, it's not. So again, go and find the latest payrolls release. You know, if I go too far forward, there is no release. Find out where there is no release. So there's no release for me. That'd be January. I've said this many times. Go back one to the last release. Okay, it's here. There, can you see it? Non-farm employment change. That's the payrolls. Open it up. Released monthly, usually on the first Friday. You've got it here anyway when you built the calendar. Released monthly on the first Friday after month ends. But we can just copy it from here. Copy it there. Replace what we had there for manufacturing. Okay, so you've got that. Okay. What else do we want to do? Just maximize it. We can change this headline. We know we don't want manufacturing there. We want to put the payrolls in there. But we're going to replace this data with payrolls. So we've got payrolls. Just want to make sure there's nothing else I'm missing. Great. That's it. So now this is manufacturing data, right? Because we copied the manufacturing data across. Can you see? Same. This data here, can you see it's not changed? Because I've currently got manufacturing data. I'm going to replace this. Like I said, you can either build it from scratch or you can drag the manufacturing data across and replace the data and save us having to build it all from scratch again. So that's why I'm doing it, obviously for the purposes of time, to save a bit of time. But if you want to, you know, really get your teeth stuck in, nothing wrong with doing it the longer way. In fact, I highly encourage it. So how are we going to end up with some payrolls data? The other thing I was going to say, because if you do it, you only have to do it once, and obviously you do learn a lot, but this way is fine as well, make no difference. Get the latest number, check the date. When was it? For me, Friday, December the 3rd, 2021. So can you see I've got 1st of December, I need to change that. Friday, right? It's the first Friday after the month end. Friday. That's another reason I said to you I like to have these days in. Just make sure I'm being given the right days by this calendar, and I am. Friday, right? I'm expecting on a Friday. It is a Friday, the 3rd of December, which I have here. Now, copy the data across. Again, you should be used to doing this. Copy. Put it in there, actual forecast. Do you see why I use this and I don't go to the BLS website? Because the BLS website might have in a different format to the ISM for manufacturing. Then I have to, it's all over the place. Here, everything's in the same format as I was saying to you guys earlier. And I can just copy that, those 3 numbers in the same order I need them for my graph. Actual, forecast, previous, right? Paste, special, match destination, right? Match destination. We don't want to keep source formatting because that happens. Control Z. Okay. Match destination formatting. This cutoff, I don't need it because there's no such thing. Like when we had manufacturing, do you see? Above 50 indicates this, below 50. This is a different type of report. This isn't like an index or a diffusion index, right? See this? Diffusion index. It's a survey that's put into a diffusion index format. This is the raw data. This is the actual number, the change, the actual change in the number of people employed during the month. You can see that here. It's the physical change. So I don't have a cutoff point. So I don't need this. So what I do, highlight that, delete. Okay, so don't worry about this. You may get this. It's just because we've got a hashtag value there. So don't worry about it, okay? Just click OK. There's nothing wrong with the formulas. We're going to sort that out. We're going to change that. The forecast versus forecast is because Excel is not recognizing this as a number. It's viewing this as text, right? It's thinking, what's 210K? That's not a number. K, you see that K? We're going to clean that up. Don't worry about it right now. Let's get the data in and then we can do the cleansing afterwards. You'll only need to do this once, as I've said to you before. After that, every single month, 10 seconds, you just put the new data in and you'll be fine. But obviously for the history, you need to do this process once, okay? So same sort of thing. We've now put the latest number in December. We're now going to take all the history. Can take just a whole bunch of them, okay? Yeah, we want to go back 24 months and have a couple of years. but we'll figure that out as we come along. So don't forget, don't touch that top one. Okay, that one's been done now. Paste, special, match destination formatting. Okay, and in fact, put it in the wrong one, didn't I? It's that cell there. Okay, match destination formatting, click OK, as in click on it. There you go. Okay, don't worry about that. Do you see that's coming up because all of these have come up with values? Don't worry, we're going to clean that up. That has happened because Excel is wondering. All these K's here. You see, that is not a number. It's not, for example, this one, 531. It's not 531. Excel is thinking, what's 531K? It's text. It thinks it's text, and you can't subtract text from text, and it's getting confused. So we're going to clean that up. So don't worry, we're about to do that. So in fact, what you'll need to do, and it is a little bit annoying, but you'll only ever need to do this once and then it's done, okay? Is what I need you to do is, again, we're going to go through the process of cleansing these dates, okay? Again, you'll only ever need to do this once. You won't need to do this again. So we've got the right dates, right? 5th of November, but because again it's text, don't forget, released in November for payrolls of October. So we've got it all right. Instead of 5th of November, you need to type it in, right? So it recognizes it as a date. So again, if you're in a different country with different formatting, just do it in that way that's relevant to you. For me, obviously UK format. 5th November 21, hit enter. There we go. You see it's on a Friday? I know I'm on the right path. 8th of October, 8 October 21. Friday, perfect. 3rd of September 21. Okay, perfect. Now, for these actuals, because I don't want the K there, I want Excel to realize that's 210. I don't want it to think it's 210K. What is that? It's just text. It's thousands, we know that. So either you can replace that with 210,000. What I like to do is I just like to get rid of the K. Okay, so if you press F2, it'll allow you to edit it and then delete the K. Can you see? And don't worry, that will, once we get rid of all of these, that error message will go away. It's now 210. Okay, this is 553,000. Get rid of the K. 553, and do you see it's now populated because it recognizes, oh, I need to subtract 210 from 553. Previous, get rid of the K. So what that's telling us is that the actual number of jobs or the change in the number of people employed was 210,000. The forecast was what? 553. So we were under forecast. Can you see it's red? By how much? 343,000. Straight away I can see it was, I guess you could say, bad. Okay, you got to be careful because in theory it wasn't that bad. We still added jobs. Do you see its context? But versus forecast we were off quite a bit. We missed the number by 343, so that's why I like to have that there. So what I also like to do, because that's not 210, it's 210,000, I like to just put the K in the brackets there. Okay, so I've got it. I know it's thousands, and I know it is anyway, but I just like to be very particular about being clean about these things. We can expand that just a little bit so it doesn't cut off that. Previous, thousands, of course, again. Just expand that a little bit. Sorry about that. And we will get, those errors will go. A bit frustrating, but. So now, we want to do the same thing here. So get rid of that K, F2, okay, and F2, and this, F2, F2. So you're only going to get the errors when you do it this one time. Get rid of the K there, just hit OK, okay. So I need you to get rid of all the Ks, okay. Sorry about that bleeping noise, but get rid of, so what you need to do, get rid of all of these Ks that you see here, so that Excel sees these as numbers. Change all the dates, as I said. This whole thing will take you about 2 minutes, and then once it's done, you'll never need to do it again. But you can see it's well worth the effort. So I'm going to pause the recording there, clean it up. You can do it as well when you pause it. Just clean it up, and I'll see you in a sec. Okay, that was pretty straightforward, right? So just clean those up. Can change some of these. Still having this error. Yeah, I think I know what this is. If you have this error, right, it's because we're using the same chart from here and we haven't changed the source data yet. So we go select data. So what you can do, in fact, we'll just wait, okay? We'll wait until we've cleaned up the chart, because what you'll find is otherwise every time you might find this, you have this error every time you're trying to change something. So what we're going to do, and I probably should have done this before so you avoided having an error every time you were changing something. The alternative is you can just click on select data and you see these, you can remove them, remove that, okay, remove that, and then click OK. So it's just a blank chart. Okay, can you see now? Hopefully, yeah, there you go. You can now change stuff. I probably should have got you to do that before removing all the K's, and then you wouldn't have had you might have had an error every time. So apologies for that, but there you go. Got to the bottom of that. Just move that a little bit. Okay, so we've got all the data. Really nice, beautiful format. We know now 210,000, 916,000, minus 140. Forecast again is all in thousands. Everything is nice and neat. Let's now, we don't need this for the time being. We'll get the unemployment rate. I like to look at that as well. For now, we can just maximize this and get this in basically graphical format, right? So we want to know, how's the payrolls number changed over time? You know, I talked about it at the start of this whole course about getting an edge over other people. Basically, that's what we want to know. Just want to make sure I'm not blocking anything. No, that's great. So how can we do that? Basically, select data, very straightforward. Add an entry in here. Okay, we want to add payrolls. So what's the series name? Well, it's payrolls. So either I can type in payrolls there or I can select that cell, payrolls, okay. Series values, where's the values? Well, they're here. Actuals, right? So I highlight, you see that? Highlight all of those. Okay, so we're starting to get some data coming through now. Click OK. Okay, thank you very much. Edit the horizontal axis label. So we're going to edit that. The labels, I want these, right? December, January. I don't want it to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on and so forth. Okay, click OK. And then click OK again. Now, part of the problem is we've got the same settings that we had on manufacturing services, right? This 40 to 70. Problem is payrolls doesn't follow that format. Payrolls isn't 40 to 70. It's huge numbers. So we need to change the axis so it's more relevant to payrolls, okay? So what you do, double click, and you can see the axis options. These bounds, we've got 40 and 70. Just reset them. Reset, reset, okay? It's now starting to look more sensible, so we can actually make a little bit of sense of the data. Now, because I'm doing this very close to when COVID happened back in March, April time, can you see that there? Payrolls completely tanked and went completely through the floor, but then smashed back up again, as we know, in line with the kind of very short recession, the shortest recession in history. So what we're actually going to do is I'm going to change, is up to you, okay? Like I've said in the Pro Foundation course, there is no such thing as black and white. There's no indicator. People are always looking for the easy way out, and that's why they don't do well in this business. You do need to use a little bit of thinking, lateral thinking, critical thinking, and you're all capable of it, okay? Think about it. If in this instance, payrolls only has, and I'm just trying to find my pen here. Right, if 90% of the time payrolls is here, in this region, right? And one time in history it's over here. Does it make any sense for me to have my axis that wide? Because then I can barely see any changes going on here, and all I see is this. Why not actually change my axis so it's like this? I already know I've got a crazy outlier here, an outlier. I don't need to have it there in my face all the time. And I know as time goes on, these are going to go into history. So it makes no sense. So make an executive decision to just tighten things up a little bit. And that's what I do, okay? So I actually think, typically on average, in a normal month, you're looking at somewhere between 1 and, maybe 100, 500, 1,000, maybe 2,000 maximum, right? So what I'm going to do, or what I like to do, is have that as maximum 2,000 in terms of payrolls changes. Can you see? Up to 2,000. Sorry, that's minimum, isn't it? What did I do there? Control Z. Okay, there we go. So I like to have the maximum as 2,000. Hit enter. Okay, and my minimum, what have I got it as? You show me, when has payrolls ever been under about 1,000, apart from the one sort of COVID related? It doesn't. Typically it's more like minus 100, minus 200. I don't really need to have all this 3,000, 8,000. It's just crazy. It makes no sense. Okay, I had one data point in history. I already know about that in the back of our mind, that I had that data point. So for me, minimum 1,000. Do you see? It starts to become much more sensible. I'm basically ignoring these outliers. I know there's a number up there and I know there's a number down there. I don't need it. This now becomes much more readable. I can actually see the changes. Look, from there to there, here. I can see a nice little trend above zero. Okay, well, we're kind of between 0 and 1,000 the last few months, the entire year. We're positive generally, apart from this one slight negative. But we're holding this area in terms of, and it's not support or resistance, okay? So let's not even go there, okay? It's nothing to do with that. When companies are hiring, they're not thinking about, oh, let me not hire someone because I'm at resistance. It's complete nonsense, all of that stuff. And I've said it a million times, and people are deluded if they think otherwise. Clearly, it's more just kind of the recent kind of levels or trends that we've been at when it comes to payrolls in terms of appetite for businesses to hire. Okay, so we can see the appetite is fairly strong, sort of in the 500,000 to 1 million this year. When you come to do this exercise, it might be slightly different. Can you see I'm already starting to have a good picture? I can analyze. When I come to do my institutional Sunday, or when I come to set up my week for trading, and I know I've got payrolls coming up, I'm thinking, do you know what? We've had a lot of positive numbers recently. We've been slightly under forecast the last 3 out of 4 times, but we've generally tended to be in the kind of 200 to 700 region. As long as we hit another number in this region, that should be pretty good for us. If we get a number down here, I should be worried. If we get a number up there, it's good. Do you see what I mean? I'm starting to do some analysis based on that graph. Okay, you can't do that with a data calendar. Okay, you can see why people are all over the place. Yeah, you got a whole bunch of numbers. Keep saying you got a whole bunch of numbers here. How are you going to do this type of analysis using a data calendar? You can't. You need to really take it to the next level. Get the data over. Obviously, the data calendar is helpful just to tell you what the number was, but that's where its utility ends. You then need to have it over here. You can see. Can you see I've got the same payrolls graph, identical, right, to that. So you're now looking at the same data I am. So I'm very happy with that. Just make sure, a little cleansing of the data, make sure everything's on a Friday. It is. Just spot check some of these. When was January data released? A few days later in February. Yep, that makes sense. October, November. Yep, September, October. Yep, just do a little spot check like I said. And then the all important check here. Just close that down there. Let's just get the graph and make sure that it matches the graph. Where are we? Sorry, I selected the wrong one. Non-farm employment change. Okay, and there's the graph. In fact, it's pretty very difficult to look at that graph, isn't it? We've got, I'm looking at it, my last, going back as far as December 19, obviously you will be going back slightly later than that. Get your last month, there you go. I'm not really sure if you can remove those, you can't, but can you see the pattern? Goes down, shoots up, goes down, shoots up, and then generally positive. I'm just going to move that over. Generally positive, one negative reading there, one negative reading there. So yeah, very happy that I've got the right data. And that's it. Okay, so you've now got, ladies and gentlemen, payrolls, services, manufacturing, a calendar. Can you see you're starting to really motor ahead of anyone else who looks at fundamentals? Don't even need to pay for this data. I've got it all free. A lot of people think I'm paying thousands of pounds for all of this. I'm not. You know, I'm using a little bit of intuition, and obviously I've been taught a lot as well. I've been very lucky, and I'm passing that knowledge on to you. It's free. It costs you nothing to build all of this stuff, which is why I get so excited by it, because I think it's fantastic that people can get, I was going to say every day, you know, people who are outside of the financial industry have access to it, but I just mean people who, you know, want to have access to it can, and don't need to pay through the nose for it. The one I'm going to do now is unemployment rate, and then we're done. I'm going to actually just pause this for one moment, because it's quite funny, my missus has just popped home. I'm going to have some dinner. I'll pause it. I'll be back in 2 secs. So you won't even notice that I've had dinner. I'm going to then do the unemployment rate, and then we're going to do that, and then we'll move on to the next one. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so I'm back. Had a bit of dinner, which is good, because it's always good to be full of energy when you're doing these things. But anyway, yeah, I'm back now. So we're just going to finish off basically with the unemployment rate. As I said, you know, do want to have that on here because I like to follow it. We can see it here, payrolls and the unemployment rate. Now, in terms of what is the unemployment rate, most of you will already know that. You may not know the exact ins and outs, how it's calculated and all that type of stuff, but don't worry, we're going to cover all of that, like I said, in a particular sort of analysis or module when we look at payrolls and employment data. So for now, don't concern yourself too much with that. But for us to be able to do that analysis, we need the data. This is all about keep going on about it, the data in a format that's easily understandable to us. And obviously when you have it in this format, it's completely meaningless, right? I mean, it's fine. We know the rate was 4.2%, but what it's been doing for the last year, 2 years, really doesn't tell us much, right? Apart from the number. So let's actually give ourselves a fighting chance against, you know, some of the more professional traders out there, and let's try and put ourselves at least in line with them by looking at what they're going to be looking at, which is a lot more in terms of a fuller picture. So to do that, what I do, right, rather than having, I don't want hundreds of tabs, because then kind of defeats the purpose of trying to be succinct with information. When it comes to unemployment, as you can see here, I like to put it on one page. Okay, that's why I like to zoom in a little bit so I can have it both on one page. We won't zoom for now. Let's just build it. You know, don't need to have, if you want, you can have a second tab. Okay, payrolls and unemployment. They're both released at the same time. Okay, by the same organization, the BLS. So you can see here, the Bureau, BLS, Bureau for Labor Statistics. They released the unemployment rate at exactly the same time as non-farm, the employment change. They also released a couple of other bits and bobs, average hourly earnings and stuff. But so rather than me having the unemployment rate on a different tab, it makes no sense. They're released at the same time. I might as well have them. It's the employment picture in one go. Might as well have it on the same tab. So to do that, here's what I do. You can do it a different way to me. I just copy this. Okay. Bring it over here. Okay. And then, so copy as in highlight it, and then Control C or copy, and then over here, and then paste. Okay, literally just paste it, exactly the same. That's what I do. Probably just make these a little bit, bring these in a little bit, because we haven't got much space. And what I might do is I might just make this graph a little bit smaller. Obviously you can not do that if you don't want to, but just to give myself a little bit of room, because I'm going to need another graph over there. And I'm going to remove a couple of these. So let me just make this a little bit smaller. Again, you don't have to do this, but this is what I like to do. Just make it a little bit smaller. Maybe remove some of this. Delete. Right, let's just make this as small as possible. And what we want is, we want another graph so we can see payrolls and the unemployment rate side by side. You know, as I said, there will be certain times, and I already explained this, where it's okay to have both on one. We talked about it, where they're very similar in terms of their units and how they're correlated. Unemployment rate, even though it is correlated, it's slightly different, the pattern, and it's not as volatile, and it's got different units as well, percentages, and just makes it easier, in my opinion, to have it separate. So what I do is copy that, go over here, paste. Okay, so I have that. So I want to be able somehow, I'm gonna make some changes here, okay? Can you see I'm trimming that side? Just so I can somehow squeeze all of this in, basically. Let me see if I can make some more. So like I said, eventually what I would like to do is choose the zooming. Can you see now I can easily get it in to both. That's why I like to have the view zoom as 85%, as I said. Leave it at 100% for now, so you can actually see what I'm doing, and then we'll just I will zoom it in. It's up to you if you want to do the same, just so I can see it. What you might want to do, obviously I'm over here, you can see good old me over here, right here, basically. Because I'm not on your spreadsheet, what you could in theory do is you can actually move this down here. Do you see what I mean? You can play around with it. So, you know, just like in the Pro and Foundation, where you have things set up in your own way, you don't have to have it set up like this. For now, obviously this is how I'll do it, but you can set it up in your own way. Now we know this is going to be unemployment, spell this properly, unemployment rate percent, right? So I'm changing that to unemployment rate. Just see how I've got it here. The months is easy, this one, because the months and the release dates are all the same, so you don't need to change any of this, so pretty straightforward. The actuals you will need to, let's go over here, let's just move this along. So we've just got the unemployment rate. That is no longer payrolls. We're going to change that, copy that if you want, copy, okay, and then change that, paste. I don't know if it'll work actually. No, it doesn't seem to. Might work with Control V. Yes, it does. So just put unemployment rate there. Okay, now we need the unemployment rate. At the moment, we still got the payrolls data, right? Because we just copied it across from there. We need this to give us the unemployment rate data. So again, open it up. Same thing that we've been doing so far. Put the latest data in, 4.2, 4.5, 4.6%. That's the unemployment rate, the percent of the working population willing and prepared to go to work as a percentage. Unemployment, basically the number of unemployed people as a proportion of people willing to go to work. So the workforce, that is as a percentage, that is what the unemployment rate is. So the first three we've got 4.2, right? So copy that, copy, and then we're going to go in here, okay, in that area, and we're going to paste match destination formatting. Okay, so can you see I got the percentages in there now? These are not thousands anymore, they're percentages. So I'm going to change that to, in fact, I'm not going to put anything because we can already see it's a percent. So I'm going to take that off, right? F2 to get in there, scroll back. You can even do it, Control Z, you can do it up here and just remove that K. Okay, versus forecast, we want to change this because it's a percentage. So if you go to home, can you see that little percentage? Click on that and then expand the number of decimal places. Let's make it, let's change these to 1 decimal place, all of these. So if you highlight all of these, and then right click, format cells, can you see decimal places? Change that to 1, okay? Because can you see it's always reported as 1 decimal place, okay? It will never be 4.21, 4.23, you don't need to worry about that. Different way of doing it is you can use these little buttons. Okay, can you see that? Changes the decimal places. What we want to do now is we want to copy the rest of the data down. So as always, okay, so what you cannot do is you can't just select these percentages, you're going to select the dates, I believe. Can you see that? We've already got the dates in a nice format, so there is a way around it. So what you do, obviously we want all the data from November. Don't forget, this is December data for November, and I've explained this many times, right? So for you, it might be different. Get the latest data for yourself, okay? The unemployment rate, put that in there, then get the rest of the history, whatever is there, and take a whole bunch of data, copy it across. Now go in there, the first data point, be careful not to paste it in here because we already have it. We've already taken it from up there. That's the, for me, released in December for November, released in December for November. Yours is going to be whatever it's going to be. So just make sure not to fill in, copy into that cell, copy this data, go into the next cell below there, paste. Remember, match destination formatting. Okay, get rid of all of this. We don't need it because we only want 24. Okay, now can you see this is reverted back to that kind of text? It's not the actual dates. You don't need to, okay, type it all in again because we have it over here. Do you remember? For payrolls. So all you need to do is copy this, copy across here and paste it in. Okay, paste it in. All right, can you see? So you've already got it because they're all released on the same day basically. So let me just check one thing. I just noticed we've got a Thursday over here, the 2nd of July 2020. Let me just double check that. If you click on that 2nd of July, let's have a look what happened there, because that is showing as a Thursday, isn't it? Thursday 2nd of July, maybe it was a bank holiday. Yeah, so just on that one particular day, payrolls were released on a Thursday because the next day was a bank holiday, Independence Day. Okay, so that's fine. That's why it's good to check these things. Just make sure an error wasn't made. It wasn't. It's because we had Good Friday. The Independence Day. I believe it's Labor Day it's called, isn't it? But I think that's what it's called anyway. So yeah, that's all good. So you can see here, you've got all the right dates. You've got all your data now in percentages. Can you see these are not the same as format as that? So again, all you need to do, we're going to use the format painter, is click on that cell, format painter, drag it down. Okay, so you can see they've all now changed, basically. Now there is something you need to think about, right? In terms of this coloring. Can you see that even though we've got a lower unemployment rate, it's come out red versus forecast? Think about it, lower unemployment rate is actually a good thing, isn't it? Whereas a lower payroll number is a bad thing. If we have a lower payroll number, it means there were less jobs versus the forecast. So it's correct that we want it to be negative. But if the unemployment rate is lower, that's not a bad thing, that's a good thing. So can you see we need to inverse the colors when we're comparing to forecast. So to do that, very straightforward here. What we're going to tell it, conditional formatting, if it's less than 0, it's a good thing, right? So we want it to be green. Can you see that? If it's greater than 0, it's a bad thing. So we want it to be red, okay? Right, just think that through again. If you have, right, can you see now? If the unemployment rate was forecast to be 4.5% and it's actually 4.2, that's great. The unemployment rate was lower. So surely this has to be green compared to when it was red before. So now that's what we're saying. So can you see the unemployment rate has been extremely strong recently, as in good, and even much better than forecast. Virtually all of the last 5, out of the 10 last, I don't know how many releases this is, 20 releases, 18 times is beaten forecast. So you can see the unemployment rate, we can already start to think that is highly likely to beat the forecasts according to recent times. Obviously when you're doing this it may be different, but that's how it is at the moment. So we have all the data we need, right? We just need to change the graph, because the graph Can you see it? It still has the payroll data in it. I want to see the unemployment rate. So to do that, select data. Okay, we need to change this. Edit. I don't want payrolls data. I'm going to change that to unemployment rate. Okay, series values. Do you see it's highlighted that area there? I don't want it to highlight that. I want it to give me the unemployment rate, which is that. Okay, click OK, and then just edit this. You can in theory use these because they're aligned with that, but just to be correct, you know, be accurate or be precise for completion's sake, just use that. Okay, so now we have the data we want. Can you see why it's just showing as a flat line and why it's so important now, as I said, to have the right scaling on the axes? Because right now it's using -1000 to +2000 because it's using the payroll scaling. So if you double click on this, we're going to reset the bounds and reset the max bounds. Can you see? It's now suddenly starting to take shape, and let's just make sure that we can't do a better job of the... I think that's okay, to be honest. If you want, you can do a similar thing here where you can, you know, like I said, tighten things up a little bit. Just give me 1 second. I might have moved the camera by mistake there. There we go. You can, if you want. You see how we've just said, all right, you know, we know there's an outlier here, an outlier here. We can just, if you want, you can just look at the data kind of in that region because we know there's an outlier there, but I'm not going to bother because here it's quite volatile, and I want to zoom in a little bit and see these volatile moves so I can make comparisons and kind of see where we are. It's not, can you see it's very smooth, the unemployment rate, by its very nature, because of how it's presented, you know, as a percentage. It removes a lot of the volatility. If this was just a number of the number unemployed, it would be very volatile, right? It's not, it's smooth because it's a percentage. So the fact that it's calculated mathematically as a percentage, it does smooth it out, and I can see the picture. What's been happening recently, the unemployment rate is going back to previous trend, post the COVID spike. Okay, you can see it's correlated to payrolls because we had the payroll spike and then we did come down. But because this isn't shown as a percentage, it's not a percentage. It doesn't have that smoothness to it. So I do like to look at them separately, okay? Don't know what I did there. Sorry about that. I think I just blanked out the screen by mistake. Apologies. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. You now have a better, one of the most important data pieces in the world. You now have a better view of it than almost anyone else out there. Okay, so hopefully you're looking forward to using that. And if you want, you can do what I do, where I do the view and I change the zoom to 85%. You see, I now have it all there, ready for me every month. And I'm going to show you, don't worry, how you can come in, insert, and actually put the data in to that line. Once a month, it will take you 10 seconds, okay? And you can just get the graph to include that data. So I'll show you how to do that afterwards. For now, I just want you to have the data here, okay? So that's pretty much it for now. You've got payrolls, you've got ISM services, you've got manufacturing. You should have all of it, and obviously that if you want it to be bigger, you can. What have we got left to do? We're now going to do CPI. So let's move on. I'm going to do it as a separate module. Take a break. We can go and come back, and then we're going to do CPI, retail sales, FOMC, and GDP. See you on the other side.